What's going on, Babylonians? It's me, Songs of Rage, back with another Outriders WorldSlayer video to bring to you, and today we're going to be covering probably the biggest joke that ever actually existed in vanilla Outriders, and that's going to be a firepower Devastator build. Now, it's no longer a joke. In fact, it's genuinely insane as to how quickly it can complete trials, and especially take down the Arbiter as well. I honestly couldn't believe it until I actually got to see it, and I did get a little bit of help from over in the Outriders official Discord to be able to help out with the Arbiter taking down side of things. So before we get any further, make sure you have dropped a like and subscribe on the channel. It really does help the channel out, and let's get right into it. Alright, so first and foremost, as we always do, we like to have a look into the armor sets and the weapon choices. Now, when it comes to this, you can have two separate choices, but when it comes to Arbiter, there's only one that really matters. So if we have a look into probably the other choice that you can go for to be able to extend your range a little bit, I have gone for a Fatal Symbiont. Now, the reason why this is important is because it comes with Armor Pierce, it comes with Close Range Damage, and it also comes with Dark Sacrifice. Now, having all three of those on one gun is absolutely insane, because we do need our Armor Pierce to be able to deal the most amount of damage when it comes to Firepower Devastators, because we don't have a bullet skill in theory. Close range damage is always going to be viable, because that's basically all the damage that we're going to be doing. Similar to like how a Technomancer always wants to find long range damage, a Devastator wants to be able to get up close and personal, so therefore close range damage is going to be your best friend. Now, in terms of the other mods that you want to be able to get on here, Ultimate Damage Link is going to be your mobbing choice. The reason why is because Ultimate Damage Link seems to have some kind of weird interaction where it almost like double dips, but it seems to do a really good job of being able to take down multiple enemies at the same time, and I highly recommend that you do actually get Ultimate Damage Link to be able to help you out with the mobbing side of things. Now, you can also use that on a shotgun, but primarily I want to be able to use my shotgun for more of a kind of like a bossing weapon. I want this to be my high damage one, because if I do fancy taking out mobs, what I can do is just stop aiming down sights, and that allows me to be able to take out a bunch of enemies in the first place, so I don't necessarily need Ultimate Damage Link on that. But if you have a single target gun like an SMG, like a double gun or anything like that, in that case Ultimate Damage Link is going to be your best friend. Now, this one did roll with Gravedigger's Frenzy, but other mods of note would be something like Fortress, would be Killing Spree. Anything that boosts up your damage if you were doing bullet damage would go great on this. And but Gravedigger's Frenzy is actually a really nice choice to be able to go on this, even though it does have a very long cooldown in between activations, because it's only active for 50%. So therefore, it is a nice choice, but there are definitely better choices out there. But I do think this is probably one of the better guns to be able to go grab. So therefore, if you do have a Fatal Symbiont kicking around, this is going to definitely do some work for you. Now, unfortunately, in the clips that you've managed to see, unfortunately none of those actually do work with an SMG, and they don't seem to work with an assault rifle. You definitely need something that has more pellets, so therefore the Fatal Symbiont is not going to be the play, it's not going to be the call to be able to go for Arbiter, so you're going to need to be able to find yourself a really good shotgun. So when it comes to shotguns, what you want to be able to look out for is going to be Armor Pierce and Close Range Damage. Now, the other mod can be anything else, the other attribute. You can roll anything else that you really want to. In this case, I've got Status Power, but the last mod just doesn't really make much of a difference, so therefore you'll just primarily be using those two stats. What you primarily want when it comes to this gun is to be able to find something that increases your damage, your single target damage, as opposed to what Ultimate Damage Link did when it came to submachine gun. So you're going to be wanting to find something that hits hard. In this case, Dark Sacrifice is going to be top tier. Dark Sacrifice is going to be probably the best one to be able to go out and grab. Other ones of note are going to be things like Fortress, like Killing Spree, but Killing Spree is not going to help you when it comes to bossing, so therefore I'd probably steer clear of that one. Anomaly Enhancement is also a great choice, because that allows us to be able to boost up our firepower, and that allows us to be able to make up for the loss of some kind of like damage in that sense. Gravedigger's Frenzy is also a great choice as well. The possibilities are pretty much endless. You know how it kind of works. If you're looking for a firepower build and you'll be looking to be able to increase your weapon damage, you definitely want to be able to grab as many of those perks as possible. Now, also of note, I did get Concentration Blast on this. Now, as much as I've liked the mod in the first place, like back when it was in Vanilla Outriders, it feels like it's so much more consistent now, and I actually really enjoy it having it on this shotgun, because how this kind of works is that you can line up a bunch of enemies if they're all coming out for mobbing, and it will detonate, it will kill the one, well, almost all the time, it will kill that one single mob enemy, and then it will deal a residual damage to any of the other enemies that are stood close by, and that allows it to be able to be easier to be able to take them down. Similar to how kind of like Bone Shrapnel worked when we had it on like Firepower Technomancers, it allows us to be able to weaken the next bunch of enemies, and it allows us to be able to consistently keep our rounds up. So that's everything to do with the guns, and we'll cover, like I said, we'll cover everything in combination a little bit later as to how this all works with Arbiter. So let's move across to the armor side of things. Now for the headpiece, I do have an ivory and bone because I really like the roll that this came with, so therefore I have been using this. Now the primary things that you want to be able to grab are going to be bonus firepower and close range damage. Both of these are going to be the main things that are going to be increasing the amount of damage we're going to be doing with our guns, so therefore once again those are going to be the best ones. Now if you can get a cooldown reduction on there as well, even better. But it's no longer needed. It's I mean, none of these pieces have cooldown reduction or anything like that, and I'm still able to get a lot of work done because the one skill that we are actually using will be cooled down by the set bonus that we are planning to be using in that sense. So therefore, cooldown reduction, while it's nice, it will help with the other skills, is not needed. But if you can get it, then that will be absolutely perfect. Now, the first and foremost, we want to be able to grab some mods that help out with armor piercing, but we also want to help out increasing the amount of damage that we're going to be doing. So, in this case, we are grabbing Plate Piercer. The Plate Piercer is absolutely insane when it comes to Firepower Devastator, because this build is all about stacking up armor piercing to the max, basically. And this allows us to be able to get a very nice damage bonus from every single time we stack that up. Now, at standard, I do have 90% armor pierce. That's because from the gun, that's from the class tree, that's from our Ascension Points, and it all feeds straight back into that. Now, you can go a different route, which I was looking at when it came to a crit version of the Devastator build, which allowed you to be able to use things like no resistance against the fortified, and it allowed you to be able to then use things like Achilles heel and I can't remember the other one, resistance piercer or something like that. It allows you to be able to do even more critical damage. Now, that was a decent build, and I'm looking to be able to try and incorporate it into this build, but if you're going to be able to grab any of them, then Plate Piercer is the one to be able to grab, because you don't need any other mods to be able to feed back into it. Now, this will also increase when we go into our Pax Tree as well. So in certain scenarios, this will also increase the amount of critical damage that we'll be doing, but just having a flat 45% increase to our critical damage is absolutely huge, and I highly recommend that you do get this in this build. Personal space is also a great one because we're going to always be doing close range weapon damage, so therefore we might as well have that increase to our 12% increase. And Magma Shelter I'll also cover very, very shortly, because there's a reason why we have picked up Magma Shelter. It's not there just as a dead Apocalypse mod, it is actually needed for this build. So if we go from there to the Deathproof Chest Armor, now, the main focus on this is when it comes to the set bonus, we have Death Proof, where you reduce the cooldown of your Boulder Dash by 90% and increase your firepower by 30% of armor. So therefore, it is completely viable to be able to increase our armor as much as possible to be able to get the benefit from the amount of damage that we will be doing. So as you can see on this, when it comes to the chest piece, we are going for Damage Absorber, which is the biggest increase to our armor as possible without going under a certain health kind of cap. It is more than mitigation from death, so therefore Damage Absorber is going to be the best call just to be able to have just as flat on your build. Primal Armor is also very, very useful because we are using a Boulder Dash very much, so therefore doubling our armor when the skill ends for 5 seconds means that we're able to double every single bit of our flat armor value to be able to increase our firepower to this go straight back into damage. So therefore Boulder Dash is going to be our main skill, and it's going to you'll understand, you'll see the damage skyrocket when you're playing around, but Primal Armor is 100% kind of needed when it comes to this build. Now, I do have Preservant Shield on this, and it has helped me out a few times, but if you were looking for other mods to be able to increase this, we'll get into that at the end of the video, but I probably would swap that out with something else that would increase the amount of damage, or maybe like a damage multiplier. So it's nice for help, it's nice as a way to be able to, in case you get yourself into a bad situation, but it's in no way needed to be able to do well when it comes to this build. Going from there, we do have the leg piece, which gives us our Death Proof, gives us our bonus firepower, gives us our close range damage, and this comes with Primal Chain Gun. So every enemy that's damaged by the skill increases our weapon damage by 20% for 5 seconds, and this can stack up to a maximum of 5 times. So when we use this skill and we hit up to 5 enemies, which is also important because that allows us to be able to, it will also interact with our Pax Tree as well, we can get up to 100% weapon damage bonus just from having this mod equipped. So it makes the most sense to be able to try and hit as many enemies as you can. And when it comes to Shattered Armor, with Endless Mass, this increases the amount of weapon damage against enemies that have been dragged in by the skill by 25% for 6 seconds. This is also another one of our skills, which I find is very useful when it comes to this, not only just in a mobbing kind of sense, but it also gives us an additional multiplier against the bosses as well when it does actually trigger. And I do think that Endless Mass is just one of the better ones to be able to control the battlefield. We do also have Vaccinated on here to be able to receive 20% less damage when afflicted by a status of burn, toxic or bleed. Once again, not needed whatsoever. We have enough armor in there to be able to be very tanky, to be able to have enough survivability in the build. So this is once again a dead mod, unfortunately, but it is kind of nice to have it on there, so I don't consider it a bad mod when I'm using this skill, but I will actually do a proper one over on the Outriders Outpost to be able to show you what will be the best in slot. Going from there, we do have the Death-Proof Gauntlets to be able to round off the 3-piece, and this does come with max health, unfortunately, but it does come with our close range damage, which is great. It comes with Death's Door to be able to double our armor whenever our health drops below 35%, so if we ever do trigger our Preservant Shield, we will also be triggering this to be able to increase the amount of damage we will be doing, because every single time we increase our armor, we'll go straight back into our firepower. So this is, it's not very often we do get down to that threshold, but when we do, it gives us a nice damage increase to be able to help us get back up to full and to be able to recover in time, to be able to make sure that we don't die and we don't lose one of our retries when it comes to trials. We also have Super Collider on there, and this is going to be where I talk about the interaction when it comes with the shotgun and when it comes with Magma Shelter, because Super Collider, while it says on paper, entering cover fire creates a force field that increases the amount of damage that you and your allies' bullets that pass through it by 25%. Now, I'm not 100% certain on this, I haven't done enough testing on it, but when it comes to doing the SMG compared to the shotgun, which you'll see the footage in the background, when it came to the Fatal Symbiont, it was doing less than 1,000,000 points of damage every single time I was firing through this, but when I use a shotgun, it then multiplied it to such a degree that it was pretty much wiping out Arbiter in less than 2 seconds, which is absolutely insane. The only way that I can potentially justify this, the only way that I can potentially wrap my head around this actually happening, is that every single pellet is being treated as a separate shot, which means that we are getting that 25% damage increase every single pellet that goes through that shield. So therefore, shotguns will get a massive increase compared to what like submachine guns or double guns or anything like that, something that fires one single bullet every single time, when we've actually got a shotgun that can fire, I think it's around about 6 to 8 pellets, and every single one of those is being boosted by 25%, and it just means that we're just doing some insane amount of damage. That's my only guess. Once again, I will try and do a little bit of testing on this to be able to try and get this confirmed, but that's the only way I could potentially see it actually working, and that's the only way I can potentially see it justified. Arms and Anomaly is critical shots increase our anomaly power by quite a decent amount, so 107,000. But unfortunately, we're not doing it really much with our anomaly power. We are using anomaly enhancement when it comes to our shotgun, so therefore we will get a bit of a boost to our firepower. But you definitely do not need this in the build, so therefore only use this if you do have an anomaly enhancement weapon kicking around. And then lastly, we do have some boots, which do come with bonus firepower. Unfortunately, I'm looking for some better boots when it comes to this, because the Tremor mod and the Circular Power are pretty much dead, and I'm purely just using this for bonus firepower and Captain Hunter because I haven't found anything better. So therefore, Captain Hunter is absolutely amazing with this, especially when it comes to Arbiter. It allows for those really quick and speedy kills, and then just make sure you just stack as much firepower as you can into the build in the first place. Going from there, if we have a look into the skills, so we have our Boulder Dash, we have our Tremor, we have our Endless Mass. Now, when it comes to this, when Tremor especially, you do not need this in the build. This is kind of a free slot. You can put whatever you want in this. If you're finding that you need a little bit more survivability, Golem is going to be a great choice. You can potentially use some of the dead mod slots to be able to put Earthquake in there to be able to stack up some nice armor from that as well. And you can potentially go for something like Reflect Bullets if you really fancy it, because there are some class nodes that allow us to be able to get a weapon damage increase every single time we activate our Reflect Bullet. But if you also do fancy using Death Renome, which I'm going to suggest a little bit later on, then Reflect Bullets will always be off cooldown, and that will allow you to be able to work with these two mods to be able to get that nice firepower bonus. So Tremor is not necessary, but I found that this was kind of nice. One, because I was getting those increased explosions, or those increased tremors when it came to the boots. And then also for the fact that because it also does a stagger for enemies that are around me, if I ever get surrounded when it comes to the melee enemies, Tremor will actually help me out a little bit there, and it will also give me some nice health increase as well. Endless Mass is there to be able to, once again, control the battlefield. It's there also as part of our Pax Points, and it's also there to be able to trigger off of our Clash Tree, and it's also there to be able to, like I said, just be able to line some enemies up and to be able to debuff them in the first place. So I do think Endless Mass is absolutely stunning when it comes to this build. And then lastly, we do have our Boulder Dash, and this is our main skill on a 1.2 second cooldown. And we're not really focusing on the damage that it's going to be doing in the first place, but what we are going to focus on is the damage reduction that it's going to be giving us, which is a 65% bonus, or basically like a golem, just while we're actually using the skill. And then on top of that, it will also feed into our class tree, it will also feed into our Pax Tree, and it will also go into all the armor mods that we've actually got dedicated to it to be able to increase the amount of weapon damage that we will be doing. Going from there, we do have our class tree. Now, our class tree is primarily top tree to be able to maximize the amount of firepower or the amount of weapon damage that we will be doing, and then we do extend down a little bit into the middle to be able to increase the amount of armor that we have, which then feeds straight back into our firepower. So this also helps us being tanky, but at the same time also gives us a damage increase as well. So primarily you want to be able to pick up these Havoc nodes and the Brawler nodes to be able to allow you to be able to do as much weapon damage and as much close range weapon damage as possible. You also want to be able to pick up these Armor Breaker nodes as well, because while they also do feed straight back into Plate Piercer, Plate Piercer, to be able to increase the amount of crit damage that we will be doing, it also allows us to be able to have our consistent increase the amount of damage that we will be doing through enemies' armor. And then lastly, we do want the Capstone to be able to grab Altered Charge. When kinetic skills end, increase your weapon damage by 70% for 10 seconds. This will impact on Boulder Dash as well as Endless Mass, and this allows us to be able to have two skills that we'll always be able to proc it with. Now, if you're not a massive fan of the SMGs and you just kind of want to go for shotguns to be able to just do the massive amount of damage in the first place, that's completely fine. What you can do is be able to pick up these couple of nodes to be able to increase your Shotgun Adept and to be able to increase your Shotgun Master, which allow you to be able to increase your damage by 12% and 15% respectively. Alternatively, if you do choose to not go for a shotgun, you can actually go for Assault Adept and Assault Master to be able to increase your amount of damage by assault weapons instead, but due to how good shotguns are when combined with Super Collider against Arbiter, I would highly recommend that you do grab the Shotgun Master instead. And then lastly, we go all the way down, and the reason why we've gone down is because Heirloom Armor is there to be able to increase the amount of armor that we will be getting for every single enemy that's in close range. So when we kill them, we get 20% of their armor added to ours, which makes us a bit more tanky, but also goes straight back into our firepower. And this also means that we can then go down here through Colossus to be able to give us a little bit of extra health. Stone Circle to be able to extend the distance considered close range by additional 4 meters. And so that makes it a little bit more consistent to be able to have Heirloom Armor. And then also through the mob, which increases our armor by 15% for every enemy that's also in close range. So being able to increase that range means that we're also able to get this bonus a little bit more effectively as well, which then from having more enemies nearby us means that we're getting more firepower. Swapping from there to our Pax Tree, now we have gone purely top for this one when it comes to packs, so therefore we've gone Hunting Season to be able to increase our weapon damage by 30% and mag size by 50%. Harvester to increase our weapon leech by 10% and additionally increase the leech by 2% for every enemy in close range up to 10%. Note once again that we have increased our close range distance and then extended it a little bit further out, so therefore this is a bit more consistent as well. You can go for a choice and you can go for Hardened instead, but I feel like if I've already got the defense in the first place, I want something to be able to increase the amount of leech that I'm going to be able to keep myself alive, especially in sustained firefights, so therefore I do think Harvester is a little bit better than Hardened, but you know, feel free to choose that one. Basically we just need to be able to progress a little bit further along. Next one is Finishing Touch, which increases our weapon damage by a percentage of ammo missing from our mags, and then Killing Shots replenish 35% of our magazine. This allows us to be able to hold down the trigger when it comes to shotguns, and allows us to be able to just basically waste everything that's in front of us and just keep firing over and over again without the need to reload. Next up we have Armor Division, increasing our armor piercing by 20% and reduces our kinetic skills cooldown by 50% of our armor piercing value, which is remember that's why it's so important. So because we have 90%, we have increased the cooldown, or decreased the cooldown, of our Endless Mass and our Boulder Dash by 45%, which is absolutely huge. And then going from there, we then have the last one, which is against Devastating Odds. Damaging at least 3 enemies with a kinetic skill grants you 30% armor piercing for 4 seconds, and damaging less enemies than 3 will make your shots critical shots for 4 seconds. So therefore, Endless Mass is going to be your main way to be able to proc the top one, which is going to increase the amount of armor piercing you have, because it is an area of effect and it will drag enemies in. And then your Boulder Dash is more than likely going to cause most of your shots to be critical shots, but it can actually proc that top one as well. So therefore you always have those skills available to be able to help you out. So going from there into our Ascension Points, I don't have that many just yet. I have only just recently started my Devastator, but this is going to be my main farming build. And the main things you want to be able to go for are once again going to be your armor pierce, it's going to be your weapon damage, and I have also gone for magazine size because I want to be able to make it consistent. I want to be able to keep my magazine up, and I don't really want to have to worry about reloading. So when I have a shotgun that has 20 rounds in the magazine, I now have 35 rounds to be able to play about with when I have this along with the skill tree, which I think is more than enough when it comes to it. So I think that's probably the best way to be able to go for it. Usually you do want to be able to go for anomaly damage first, and the reason why I haven't in this is because I've primarily focused on weapon damage, and when it comes to this kind of build, we're not really getting any kind of weapon mods that are going to be doing the amount of damage in the first place. It is going to be pure bullet damage that's going to be doing the most of the damage, so therefore anomaly damage is definitely going to be a good one to be able to pick up, but it's not straight away, at least not in my opinion when it comes to this build. I would much rather be able to go for armor pierce and weapon damage and then potentially go pick it up from there if you find that you've got more than enough magazine size. Now in terms of other armor mods that you can actually go for to be able to help you out when it comes to this build, you can go for things like Wide Horizons to be able to increase the skill radius by 25% for Endless Mass, which will make it a little bit more consistent for that Pax Tree to be able to get your that armor pierce bonus right there and then. You can go for things like Anomaly Echo because you will be using skills a lot, so therefore that will give you a nice firepower and also an Anomaly Power boost if you are using Anomaly Enhancement to be able to help you do a little bit more damage that way. Damage multipliers are also great, so maybe something like Euthanizer, Shatter, or Tainted Blood if you do get a weapon that has the ability to be able to apply a status. And then lastly, at least in tier 3 anyway, I would probably recommend Stare into the Barrel, because this would boost your firepower, and you're designed to be in close range. We're extending our close range in the first place, so therefore just having this active on a piece of gear means that we're going to be boosting our firepower up even more, which allows us to be able to do even more damage. As an honorary mention, I probably would say Kingslayer, because we will be doing a lot of critical hits when it comes to this build, so therefore if you are going to be facing a lot of elites, if you are going to be doing the trials for example, Kingslayer will actually be a really good choice to be able to go for, so I probably would actually recommend picking that up as well. And then lastly, if you do choose to be able to go down the Earthquake route instead, what you can get is Panzer Drain to be able to damaging enemies with a skill of Earthquake will steal 33% of their armor, and this will last for 5 seconds. So this is a way to be able to stack up your armor, make you a little bit more tanky, but then also go straight back into your firepower as well. And there you have it, that is everything to cover when it comes to the Firepower Devastator build. I'm genuinely curious as to what you think about this. Like I said, this always had a bad rep when it came to vanilla Outriders, and I was always excited when I heard about the Pax Tree points for the Devastator and some of the armor pieces that will be coming out, but now I've been convinced that Death Proof is probably the best way to be able to actually go when it comes to Firepower Devastator, and while they had their times in the spotlight every now and then, at least in the speedrunning community, I genuinely think they actually have like a predetermined kind of like niche, and they actually can do a lot of work now especially. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I genuinely would be curious to hear if any of you Devastator build or Devastator mains out there will actually swap to a Firepower build as well. Massive thank you for making your way to the end of the video. Massive thank you to your Babylonian family as always for their continued support. Their names appear at the end of every single one of our videos, and I hope you've really enjoyed. Make sure you have dropped a like and a subscribe if that is the case, and we are pushing for that 3k subscriber count as well. That just leaves me to say, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on the next video.